welcome to SVG TV News for Monday, December 12th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be paying out 60.3 million EC dollars in retirement benefits to public servants this year. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who called in on the Issues at Hand program on WeFM yesterday, in which the topic of making the NIS sustainable and overcoming the challenges was being discussed.
We also make contributions. The NIS contributions of $14.5 million. So when you add those together, you get $74.8 million. It is often forgotten by many persons that more than 50% of the contributions for the public servants at the NIS, they come from the government as employer. I don't think that is a self-evident point, but apparently many persons don't appreciate it, and it hasn't been made yet, Cecil.
Yes.
So that in addition to this $60.3 million in the public service pension benefits, there's over $14 million in contributions to the government, to the NIS.
PM Gonsalves also pointed out that the government pays 55% NIS contribution for public sector workers who are also on state pension.
Two pensions. The point that Stuart is making is that, and everybody accepts this, that that's not sustainable. Because who is going to pay? It's the workers, the younger workers, would be paying up to 127% of what a person got when he retired, he or she retired. The money has to come from somewhere. Pijan?
Yes, sir.
Now, how can you have a sustainable pension arrangement where you get more money after you retire than when you worked? At the maximum. Of both the NIS scheme and the NIS arrangement and the central government pension. Now, those who are already on the pension arrangement as existing, there are certain legal protections for those persons. But this doesn't mean for a reform going forward from a particular date, you can say that rather than having 127%, that you have 85%, 90%. In other words, combining NIS and that from the state.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the NIS, Stuart Haynes, says while the coverage for the formal sector is good in terms of contribution to the NIS, there are some arrears outstanding and they have been taking action to deal with some of these delinquent persons.
Absolutely, we're very busy in terms of magistrate court and high court, and so in terms of taking action to those criminals, because once you're not taking money from employees and not paying it over to NIS, it's a criminal offense because you're breaking the act. So we're active with that. We also institute garnishes where we garnish bank accounts, garnish source of income, we put lien on properties and so forth, and also we engage in sort of a moral suasion. So it's a suite of different sort of legal remedies we adopt for the contribution of collection and compliance.
To what extent would you say you have been, you're reaping success?
Right.
In those?
I say it has a multiplier effect. I think from our aggressive nature of taking matters at magistrate and high court, we have influence in terms of compliance that way. And also what we have done is being able now to negotiate with employers. For instance, you may receive a letter from our lawyer indicating that, you know, we're taking legal action against you. With that person will come in, we have closed those meeting and we come up to a debt proposal or settlement. So we have seen success in that. There are some chronic sort of a delinquent employers that we're dealing with, and are with our external lawyer. But we are seeing progress, and we also seeing the employees now playing their role in terms of encouraging the employers to pay their NIS. So, I mean, things are promising, and we will continue in terms of working with employers and employees to ensure that they receive this basic sort of a protection and income security in event of some contingency that would result in loss of income.
Haynes noted that the NIS coverage for the self-employed sector is very low at about 20%, and the COVID-19 pandemic highlights the plight of what it means to be an uncovered worker.
During COVID-19, we saw a missing middle. Persons that weren't covered by social insurance, NIS, neither they were covered by social assistance. So what happened to that missing middle was government had to intervene and provide some income support. And if this continues, and that's just a loss of income due to, let we say, the pandemic, temporary. Let us say in retirement now, those persons remain uncovered to retirement. There will be no source of income in retirement, because we're speaking about what? 8 out of 10 persons receiving NIS as the only source of income in retirement.
And we're talking about categories such as farmers, but self-employed.
Self-employed, yeah.
Fishers,
absolutely.
Lawyers, hopefully they will not require.
So the principle of making it mandatory is that it's the principle of solidarity, universality, leaving no one behind.
So you would support the notion, even the action by government, to require every income earner, regardless of where you are, to make a contribution towards NIS.
Right. Yes, I would support that, because Social Security is a buffer fund for workers. They never speak to self-employed or employees, workers. And this is promulgated and supported by UN, ILO, ISA, and so forth, because
Noting that more needs to be done to advocate for Social Security for all, the NIS Executive Director said that as it currently stands, 85% of retired persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have NIS as the only source of retirement income, which speaks to the critical nature of Social Security. In other news now, we hear that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is presently on the path of having the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force undertake an audit of its legal framework and operational effectiveness in relation to anti-money laundering and the countering of terrorists and the proliferation of financing. This is according to the newly Attorney General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenville Williams, who was at the time addressing a handing over ceremony on Friday of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cash Forfeiture Handbook to the Financial Intelligence Unit from the Regional Security System Asset Recovery Unit at the Argyle International Airport launch. Williams told the ceremony the mutual evaluation will assess whether the country has in place laws that are comprehensive, detailed, and effective, noting that these laws must include sanctions and penalties that are dissuasive, proportionate, and effective.
As a jurisdiction, as St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we must demonstrate that our laws are not merely laid down in many volumes and many pages of books, but that our state agencies, regulators, businesses, the private sector, all of the relevant stakeholders are applying those laws when they are onboarding customers, conducting due diligence exercises, and the general conduct of their business. These laws, they must be used to prevent, detect, deter, and prosecute bad actors who want to abuse our financial system by transferring, moving monies, and transacting in the proceeds of crime. That is money derived from criminal conduct.
Williams says a well-regulated and strong financial system would encourage investments, facilitate financial inclusion, and SVG's participation in the global financial space as it continues to build a many-sided, robust, modern, and competitive economy.
Also target monies, funds, proceeds, which can be used to undermine our peace, security, and stability by funding terrorism, terrorist organization, or terrorist activities. We are blessed, and I repeat, we are blessed and fortunate to live in this zone of peace so that St. Vincent and the Grenadines can report that we have not identified any instances of terrorism or the financing of terrorism connected to this jurisdiction. We encourage all of our people to continue to work together to ensure that we remain a zone of peace, a zone of security, a zone of stability, free from the scourges, the ravages, and the harm occasioned by terrorism, terrorists, and terrorist activities.
The AG says he is pleased St. Vincent and the Grenadines is strengthening its relationship with the RSS and in particular the Asset Recovery Unit, noting that in the domestic environment it is also essential that there is cooperation, collaboration and coordination among relevant state agencies as well as the private sector to uphold and enhance the rule of law to facilitate good governance, promote peace and stability and social and economic well-being.
Today's activity, this handover ceremony, is another essential step in fostering the spirit of cooperation among the FIU, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the Chambers of the Attorney General, and the media. And why do I speak to the media? The media is an essential component in our governance framework. The media plays a key role in public education, facilitating transparency, accountability, awareness, and upholding the rule of law. The media, they are a strategic agency in the protection and promotion of democracy. Today, we are pleased to be part of this concrete, tangible example of law enforcement, the FIU and the RSS working together to document clear procedures and best practices for the detection, identification, seizure, detention, and forfeiture of cash obtained from criminal conduct. Through the handover of this iteration of the cash seizure, detention, and forfeiture handbook, they have demonstrated a willingness to ensure that this region is taking effective steps to keep bad actors out, to ensure we have a strong and resilient financial sector, and to ensure that procedures are documented, clear, and available for generations to come.
Williams says the cash forfeiture handbook by the RSS Asset Recovery Unit to the Financial Intelligence Unit will assist law enforcement officers, specialized financial investigators, and other stakeholders to demonstrate that the jurisdiction has clear and documented procedures and policies to manage the risks posed by money laundering, terrorists, and proliferation financing, and in particular the possession, movement, and use of cash derived from criminal conduct. St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Saturday, December 10, 2022, observed International Human Rights Day, which also ends the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The SVG Human Rights Association, Marian House, and a network of NGOs continued their awareness on this scourge targeting the youth. We hear more in this report.
You as young women or young men have children. Try not to train your children differently to the boys.
Students from various schools are now better informed and aware of their basic human rights. This as the Human Rights Association presses on with ensuring the Vincentian population is made aware of their rights. On Friday, December 9th, several whistle stops were done in capital Kingstown and at schools.
Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more.
Students from the Bishop's High, the J.P. Eustace Memorial Secondary School, the Kingstown Government School and the Kingstown Anglican School were all part of the awareness sessions.
And first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out and teach us about human rights and things, but not just women alone, man too. Men should just respect the woman and woman should respect man in the same equal, the same way still, man.
I learned a lot. I didn't know that the time that year started in December. I just learned that information too.
My school participated and I think that the session was very good. It allowed the students from a young age, because we had from kindergarten to grade 6, being aware of some of their rights and their responsibilities.
The theme for this year's International Human Rights Day is Dignity, Justice and Freedom for All, with a hashtag Stand Up for Your Rights. The International Human Rights Day also ends the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd, SVG TV News.
The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force is conducting investigations into the cause of a motor vehicle accident which resulted in one fatality. The accident, which involved a truck and a motorcycle, occurred along the Belmont Public Road on Saturday, December 10th at 7:40 p.m. A report from the RSVG Police Force says the cyclist and his pinion rider both sustained severe injuries and were transported to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital for medical attention. The cyclist unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. The pinion rider is still warded at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. Consumers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines are being encouraged to get a copy of the Consumer Protection Act 2020 to know more about their rights. The advice comes from Consumer Affairs Officer in the Ministry of Public Service and Consumer Affairs, Rafiq Francis, during the RSVG Police Force annual Christmas Crime Prevention exhibition held last Friday outside the Central Police Station in capital Kingstown. Francis said that the Consumer Protection Act 2020 gives consumers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines stronger legal rights.
So, please get a copy, read as much of it, and if you don't understand, the Consumer Affairs Department is always there to try and explain to you. It is important that consumers and suppliers understand the laws to help prevent certain consumer complaints. If you know the law, it could prevent you from a whole lot of problems. So, suppliers and consumer alike, get a copy of the 2020 Consumer Affairs Protection Bill. It's recently went into effect from September, so get a copy of it.
Another representative of the Ministry of Public Service and Consumer Affairs, Josephine Ross, briefly discussed what is entailed in the Consumer Protection Act 2020.
The Consumer Protection Act enables the complaint with an opportunity to have their complaint considered and an appropriate action taken. The complaint handling system should be fair to the complainant and to the person against whom the complaint is made. Who can file a complaint? A consumer who alleges that he has been adversely affected in relation to goods or services he has acquired or agreed to acquire may lodge a complaint to the department.
During this busy Christmas season, consumers are also being advised to be careful about some of the services they are being offered.
Also, from the Consumer Affairs Department, this is the Christmas season, we know a lot of shopping because we deal with consumer complaints. That is one of our main duties as a consumer affairs officer. So for the Christmas season, we want to let the public know that to be aware when you're shopping, ask as much questions before you go ahead and purchase. Read your warranties, especially for loans and You know, this is the Christmas season. A lot of that is going to be around. Read all the contracts carefully. If you're not clear of something, ask questions. If you run into any problem, find the Consumer Affairs Department and we will take the complaint. An important note, our department usually used to be in the financial complex, but we are now moved to the ministerial building. That's upstairs the post office, the same floor with Service Commission. And our telephone number, if you want to reach us by telephone, is 456-111, extension 3815. So that's 456-111, extension 3815.
Parents are also encouraged to ensure that their children's safety is #1 priority during this Christmas season. This comes from members of the Sexual Offences Unit and Chairman of the Crime Prevention Unit of the RSVG Police Force, Sergeant Sion Choi.
And we are exhibiting today's exhibition, ways and preventions to prevent any form of sexual activities. I want to highlight also for this Christmas season for parents to be very mindful of leaving home their children and paying more attention to who they are leaving them with, because most offenses do happen in the household.
We advise persons with kids, make sure you have someone be at home with them. You cannot leave children alone, especially this time. So if you kid don't have anyone to leave them home with, walk with the kids, with them in Kingston. We do advise this time, we're speaking about fires, we're speaking about human trafficking or any kidnapping, we need, or sexual offenses or sexual assaults, we need you to walk with the kids to Kingston.
With scary activities taking place around the world today, especially on the internet, Sergeant Choi further encouraged parents to speak to their children about what to do and what not to do on the internet.
To Kingston. And as we're speaking about children, we're speaking about internet safety. Parents advise the kids about the internet, how to use the internet and what to do and not to do. Especially do not advise them to give out personal information to person online who you don't know. And especially your banking detail or personal information that should be private.
In other news, a two-day training workshop on soil health and fertility management and commodity value chain potential was held here last Wednesday. Students from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College Division of Technical and Vocational Education participated in the workshop. The objectives of the workshop were to recognize the distribution of soil properties in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, explain the influence of soil properties on soil health and crop production, identify ecological-based sustainable soil management techniques, associate soil fertility management with crop and ecological zone, determine crop sustainability and potential for value chain development. Addressing the workshop's opening ceremony, Chief Agriculture Officer Renato Gums said that the eruption of La Soufrière volcano impacted the soil and altered its chemical characteristics.
To some extent, the physical properties may have changed. And we thought it was important to gain a better understanding of actually what took place with these soils. Prior to that, we had conducted soil testing under the Taiwanese project, under the soil fertility mapping project funded by the Kingdom of Morocco. So we had those results, but then, after the eruption, things would have changed. The importance of all this is that we have to be scientific in what we are doing. There are two things I say about the ministry. The ministry now has to be a bit more nimble, and we have to be a bit more scientific. And it's very important that the students of the community college who would play a significant role in future agricultural development are part of these sessions to gain a better appreciation for science involved in production, and more so, making us more competitive.
Outlining the importance of science in agriculture, Gums said the Ministry of Agriculture going forward will put more emphasis on the scientific aspect of food production.
just not scientific. It's important for you to understand all these things, because what plant roots do, plant roots basically exchange to take up nutrients. So you have to understand how much the ability of the plants to exchange with the soil, but also the ability of that soil to keep those nutrients in an exchangeable form, because that also determines how much leaching will take place. So these simple things are things we need to appreciate. You have to blend the climate, the weather, you have to blend that with the plant physiology, you have to blend that with the soil characteristics, and then you make recommendations. One of the limiting things about our country though is that we don't have a wide variety of fertilizers, and that is something we need to change. Because at different stages of growth, plants require different nutrients, require them in different ratio, different amounts. And that is something we need to improve on as a country, that we have to be more scientific and have these different nutrients available. Sometimes you look at production in the developed countries, for example, if you, and I always say this, if you go to India, the average yield per acre for tomatoes is about 25,000 pounds per acre. Turkey in Europe is about 70, and America is 98,000 pounds per acre. We are just hovering at just about 15, 20.